Hey everybody, it's Paul from Alexandria Knife Sharpening. So today I thought would be a good day to follow up the video I did the other day on the basics of how to sharpen. The next logical video to do would be stropping and honing. So that's what today's video is going to be. I'm just going to show you all the different methods that I've tried. We can get into more detail about it later. But this is basically going to be, here's all the different options for stropping and honing. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because there's a ton of options, okay? And I kind of mentioned the other day in the sharpening video, if you want to get like deep into the weeds on knife sharpening, this is an area where, you can dive down as deep as you want to go, or you can keep it as simple as you want to keep it. And there's a ton of products, and there's a ton of things, and there's tons of videos, and people are constantly coming out with new different things to try that they'll tell you makes everything so much better, and some of them work and some of them don't. But let's get started. So this is stropping and honing from my perspective, and I hope a lot of you get something out of this. Okay, so here we go. So let me just first start by saying, let's talk what is the difference between stropping and honing, and just know that these terms are often used and mixed together and not even maybe necessarily used correctly. Because they do very similar things, but technically they're different. So honing is the process of smoothing out a blade's surface after it's been sharpened. And it also kind of polishes that surface. Stropping is technically the process of removing residual microscopic nicks in that same surface. But I've also heard that some refer to honing being anything when you get above 2000 grit. So just keep that in mind. There's lots of just ambiguities out there when it comes to what are they. How I like to look at it is basically, stropping to me is done with leather. Honing to me is done with steels or ceramics. And there are diamond hones out there, but I would just tell you right up front, I don't like them. I find them to be too aggressive, and that they're really sharpening. They're really just sharpening knives. But let's start out with just taking a look here. Traditionally, this is a hone. So we have a steel here. This is a steel hone, and we have a ceramic hone. I do encourage my kitchen knife customers to hone their knives. If you hone your knife, you'll get a lot longer use out of the sharpening. And the other question you will get a ton if you sharpen knives for people, they always ask you, well, how do I know when to come in? If you can teach them to hone their knives, what I tell people is, when honing the knife stops bringing the knife back to a level that you're satisfied with, that's when it's time to come see me. So it's very simple. When honing stops working, it's time to get your knives sharpened. Or if they're not going to hone their knives, hey, whenever it's not performing to the way that you like it, that's a good time to go see your sharpener. But without getting too deep into it, when I talk about hones, I'm talking about these. Now, let's take a tour of Stropville. So this is a strop. You will see flat pieces of leather on wood. This is another strop, just a shorter, fatter one. And you can see that these had different things on them because I've tested different things on them. Let's come on over here. This is more of the traditional barbershop strops for straight razors. So if you've ever seen a barber with a straight blade, this is technically a strop. And even this is just a canvas strop. So a strop doesn't have to be leather. It can also be cloth. And I've seen denim. I've seen canvas. So you'll see lots of different things like that. So that's technically a strop. Let's come on over to the Tormek machine. So this is one of the things that's always confused me a little, is Tormek refers to this as a hone. It's a leather wheel. It only goes at about 90 RPMs. They recommend that you use Tormek paste on it, and I'll show you what Tormek paste looks like. And I actually am a big fan of Tormek paste, and I'll get more into that later. But this is Tormek paste. It's simply, you smear it on your strop, or the Tormek honing wheel, but that I like to say in my mind is a strop because it's leather. So you just rub it into this thing. When you first get this, you have to treat it with oil. They give you like a mineral oil type to put on there, and then they have you treat it with the Tormek paste. So this is what's used for stropping on the Tormek. Now, let's continue. So over here I have 1x30s, and you can see I have a bunch of leather strops here. And when I said that other things can also be considered strop, this white one, this is felt. So that's a felt belt, and that is technically a strop. Then you'll see I got this leather one with the funny teeth cut in it. That's for doing serrated knives. That is a strop. And then there's just a regular old leather strop in there. And they come in all different sizes. You'll see over here, I have my 2x42, which is 2 inches wide. And the belts are 42 inches in diameter. And you'll see I have a big 2-inch leather strop for that. We're not done. So my absolute favorite way to strop that I use the most of all is this right here. So this is a leather, I call it a flap wheel. And you'll see it's just a bunch of little round leather discs that are all smushed together, and spins at high speed on a variable speed grinder, so I can control the speed of this. It can have it, relatively, that's probably around maybe 1,000 RPMs. I forget what the speed range is on this. Or I can go really, really fast with it. And technically to the right over here, we have a paper wheel, which you could consider that to be some form of a strop or hone. So similar thing. The paper wheel is a little bit more aggressive than the leather. And as you deal with different steels and different things that you sharpen in a sharpening shop, sometimes you'll run into kind of a stubborn burr that you might need to get off. And that's what I'll use the paper wheel for. I also use this a lot of times when I'm doing serrated knives. It's very good for getting the burr off of serrated knives. Okay, sorry about that, gang. I'm not sure what happened. My phone overheated for a second and shut off. So we will continue. So as far as leather strops, you can get them for just about everything. So even if you guys if you're using a Ken Onion Elite, here's 3 leather strops I have for my Ken Onion Elite sharpener. And so many things have, hones and strops on them. This is a paper wheel on this twice as sharp scissor sharpener. This same thing, this is a Ukami Gold hone. Technically, they call it a hone. And once again, this is one of those things I'm going to tell you. I'm pretty sure this is some type of paper wheel, and it gets a what they call Ukami Gold paste put on it, which is really just basically a white rouge of some sort. And when we talk about like kind of getting down into the weeds, so this here is a kangaroo strop I have for a sharpener. So you will even see things of like different types of leathers. So a lot of people say that kangaroo strops are the very best in the world. I will tell you this, they are very expensive. This little piece of kangaroo hide cost me about 30 bucks if I remember correctly. And as you can see, it's very tiny. There are kangaroo tail strops, and supposedly the best leather from the kangaroo comes from its tail. And so you have to be conscious of that too if you're looking for a kangaroo strop. Where did it come from? My understanding, from what I understand, is that they are fairly regulated in Australia as far as hunting goes. So it's not very easy to get a full, like that barber shop size strop in kangaroo tail. And the ones that I have seen have been extremely expensive. And honestly, I've used this, and for me, I can't tell you that there is any massive difference between good cowhide or kangaroo, but I'm sure there are some people out there that will tell you that I'm probably crazy and that there's a difference, but I just have not seen it. But these are the kind of things when I tell you about going down the rabbit hole that of stropping are out there. Now, I mentioned earlier that I do like Tormek paste. I have experimented with lots of different things. So over here, this is Lapistry diamonds. This is 2.5 micron diamond spray. And I actually do like diamond sprays. I will use them, and you'll see I got another one over here. This is a 1 micron, and you just kind of mix it up, and you can spray that on here. Now, there are different types of diamond sprays too, so I'll just touch on that briefly. So a few years ago, I read a really cool web article about the difference between monocrystalline and polycrystalline diamonds and how effective they are. And the study that was done, which was really cool, was done about what it takes to fracture them. Rather than go in and explain that to you, someone else did a great YouTube video on it, and I'm going to put the link in here to the video, and I'll put it in the description to the video. So if you want to kind of geek out and hear all the information that was discovered from that, you can. But basically, what I started doing was, rather than wasting a lot of money on polycrystalline diamonds, I would make my own diamond sprays with monocrystalline diamonds, which you can get for really inexpensively on Amazon, on eBay, and you can make them yourselves. So I'll link the article. I'm not going to go into a bunch of detail about it. There's a I'll link the video, the YouTube video that was done, and if you want to see that, you can go ahead and watch it yourselves. For those of you that don't feel like watching that whole video, I'll just kind of summarize it for you. And basically, what they discovered was that we're not using enough pressure and speed to actually fracture polycrystalline diamonds, so that we're really not getting the benefit of polycrystalline diamonds. So why pay for the extra cost for something that's not fracturing, because the way that we're using them isn't fast enough or under enough pressure to make them fracture, to create new smaller diamonds, which makes the sharpening and stropping and everything else more effective. I at one point was trying all the different diamond sprays. I got sucked in by many, videos that I saw about, oh, try this, and I won't name any name brands. You guys probably know them, and if you want to see them, just, search for what's the best diamond spray. There's plenty of reviews on them. Here's my experience. So my experience basically is, do they help? They do. How much do they improve? I find it's a small improvement. It's not some drastic improvement, but it is a small improvement. And when we're talking like kitchen cutlery, to me, it's just not necessary. This is more, when you start getting into this stuff, to me, this is the serious EDC lovers out there who are trying to create the most incredible razor sharp edge on a knife or a mirrored finish. That's where I get into the diamond emulsions and that kind of stuff. So just know that, like, there's a lot of this stuff out there, and they can be very difficult to actually scientifically judge whether it's really making a difference. And when you really start getting into these things, when you start getting into emulsions and suspensions and things like that, it can be quite scientific. And I was trying several times to make a suspension, which is basically something that always stays mixed up. And I got it to work sometimes, and sometimes it didn't. And there's a lot of science behind suspensions. But I basically found that just mixing the Lapistry diamonds with alcohol worked great, and I could spray that on leather and it would dry very quick. Now, let's go back to the one other thing that I told you about earlier, which was Tormek paste. Now, Tormek paste only costs about $20, I think, for this tube here. It will last you an incredible long time. And I will tell you this, I have had fantastic results with Tormek paste. And I have put Tormek paste on regular strops for my 1x30. I have put Tormek paste on my flap wheel. It's one of those things, like, it works. It's great stuff. Everyone I've told about it that has used it on regular leather wheels on like 1x30s had said, you know what, Paul, this works great. And almost everybody agreed with me. It worked every bit as good, if not better, than some of the very expensive diamond sprays out there. So just, keep that in mind. If you want to, make that leather strop maybe a little bit more better, you can add these different things to it. But don't feel that you have to get sucked into buying some really expensive spray or emulsion to put on there, because, at least in my opinion, and there might be those that disagree with me, it does improve things, but it's not so drastic that you even really have to do it. And when it comes to kitchen cutlery, I would say it definitely doesn't have to be done. So that's my rant on strops and emulsions and all the different forms that you can use. And I am not against any one form. If you only own 1x30s, then get a 1x30 strop. If you have an extra grinder sitting around and you want to try something that I think is the very best, this is my favorite. Absolutely, without question. I think nothing works as well as this round leather wheel strop. Now, I will show you this too. This is a Shop Fox variable speed grinder. I literally took mine apart. This was a grinder. I took all the safety shields off of it, took everything off, and I even flipped the motor around. So that's why you see I did a big arrow on here to show that it is going away. And the reason I did this was because when I made this, I made this to be a permanent stropping machine. And I will use this, I'll take lawnmower blades if I have a tough burr on them, I need to get them off on here. I strop all kinds of stuff on here. So since I knew it was permanent, I flipped the motor, and it wasn't that difficult. I had to take it apart and just kind of turn it up, flip it around, and drop it back down. There was enough room with the wires and everything to be able to do that. And this permanently runs edge trailing. And as I mentioned in the sharpening video, that is the one important thing. Stropping is always done edge trailing, so always going away from your knife blade. So you can make whatever decision you want for sharpening. If you want to go edge leading or edge trailing, you can do it either way when it's sharpening, but when it's stropping, it's always edge trailing. So if you're on a 1x30, it needs to be going away from the blade of your knife. If on the Tormek machine, you'll see the stropping is always going that way. It's always going away. So you actually have to come to the other side of the machine or by the little Tormek base that you can spin it around on itself so that you're stropping in the correct direction. And that about covers it. So that is stropping options, I guess we'll call this video, because there's just so much out there. So I hope I hit most of the questions that you might have on there about stropping, and just know that, whatever works for you is fine. You don't have to do, if you don't want to buy a variable speed grinder and do the method that I think's best. For over a year and a half, I stropped on a 1x30. And before that, I stropped everything on my Ken Onion Elite, on this little Ken Onion. I did it for probably over a year. It might have been close to 2 years where I had this thing dedicated to just nothing but stropping. So lots of methods work for stropping. Whatever you decide works best for you. I mean, and for me, I kind of bounce all around. So there are times that I want to use the strop on the Tormek, even though it's slow. But there are times that I will do that. And then this is the only other thing I'll mention this too. So this is the Tormek synthetic wheel. And I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, and there's probably guys out there that love it, I don't love this. If given the choice between the leather and this, I'm going to take the leather every time. I find the leather's better. I find it removes the burr faster. There have been plenty of times that I've used this and the burr just doesn't come off. It doesn't hit that level of sharpness I want. I found this will make a really nice kind of polished edge, but what I've found is that it kind of makes a wire burr quite a bit. Now, maybe I don't push hard enough into it. Maybe it's my technique, but I am not a fan of this. Now, does that mean it doesn't work for everyone? No. There's probably guys out there that have a fantastic time and this works for them just fine. And so, I don't want you to get the wrong impression. I'm not bashing it. It just, for me, I like the original Tormek leather wheel the best. I get better results with that. And it may also be because I started with this. So for the first 2 years of sharpening, I was doing all of my stropping on that. And I didn't get this till probably 3 years into my sharpening journey. And I just never loved it. So I don't love it. It's there, but for me, that's my least favorite of all my strop choices. All right, so that's the choices on stropping. So just a reminder, I will link the products and things you saw in the description of the YouTube video. And don't forget, I also added that new section to my website that says 4 sharpeners, that has all the items and things that I use in my shop, or at least as many of them as I can get in there for you, so that you don't have to search through a bunch of videos to find things that you saw me using. And that should do it for now. And thank you for checking this out. Have a great weekend.